faceless crowd of people. Before I get into the story, I feel like we need to establish something. It's not easy for my wife Amanda and I to get pregnant. For a lot of people, it's not a big deal. People get pregnant by accident all the time. I mean, some people might get pregnant tonight. You might not even know each other yet. The night is young. The drinks are included. But for us, it was trying for years, picking up the pieces after every negative test and convincing ourselves that next month will be the month. It was freezing sperm because you have to go to London for work because your director's in a play, and your wife has already taken the meds, so the nurse forgets to test your blood, though, before you leave the country, and that means the doctor in California, I don't know other states, legally can't perform the IUI, and your wife calls you from the exam room sobbing about a week later before reaching into that bottomless well of determination and making the doctor show her how to do it so she can do it herself. That happened. My wife does not take no well. It was vitamins, blood draws, spotting, Clomid, progesterone, injectables, special diets, magic herbs, message boards, acupuncture, meditation, visualization, surgery. But mostly, it was finding out we're pregnant and then finding out we're not. The first time we got pregnant took 18 months. It almost broke us in every way a marriage can break. Then Amanda had surgery to remove endometriosis, and the surgeon accidentally punctured her uterus, which sounds horrible, but is actually a thing that happens. The uterus is very resilient. And the next month, we got pregnant naturally. Personally, I think it was like a scared straight kind of thing, like if you just get to work or this is what happens. Anyway, it was our little miracle, and it was a smooth pregnancy. Our son Whitman was born big and healthy, and we were finally mom and dad. We talked about infertility in the past tense. I figured there was no way we'd have to deal with anything like that again. I was wrong. The last time we got pregnant took 28 months. Amanda had a rough first trimester. Relentless nausea and exhaustion, plus 2 years of treatments and miscarriages, had us walking on eggshells. We lived in constant, preoccupying fear of losing the baby. The baby was good, though. We had that going for us. Until a fetal health specialist told us Amanda had developed placenta previa, which in layman's terms meant the placenta was too low and blocking the only exit. If it didn't correct, best case scenario would be a scheduled C-section. The good news was it was still early and 90% of previas correct themselves. Those are good odds. Amanda's did not. At a follow-up a few months later, the specialist discovered a further complication. The umbilical cord, which you all know what that is, but you might not have known, it can attach literally anywhere on the placenta. And our babies had attached within centimeters of the birth canal. So now, if the placenta were to move even a little in the wrong direction, she would have a real and dangerous hemorrhage risk, and the slightest contraction could be fatal to the baby. It was a lot of fun. Her doctors put her on restrictions, no exercise, nothing strenuous. She wasn't even allowed to carry Whitman anymore. Her OB told us point blank that if Amanda were to go into labor, even a little, she could hemorrhage and, quote, die. She was ordered to avoid anything that could trigger contractions, including and especially stress. So from that day forward, me, our 3-year-old, and Amanda, we dedicated ourselves to keeping her calm and relaxed. It was around this time we found out she'd been dropped from our health insurance. She found out the way one does, 30 weeks pregnant with placenta previa at urgent care, holding a feverish 3-year-old she'd been ordered not to hold. The insurance card had been denied. Whitman had been dropped too. I called the WGA Health Fund where someone informed me that we'd missed our $150 quarterly dependent premium, which can be paid online but can't be automated, and as far as I can tell, exists only so people will miss it and lose their health insurance. The payment was missed the same week we learned about the previa. We never got the invoice or payment reminder card in the mail. I mean, look, it's never good to have your wife in her 3rd trimester with no health insurance and serious complications, but I honestly wasn't worried at first. I mean, after all, this is America, and I'm a well-to-do Hollywood professional. in the prime of my life and career. I work hard, pay my dues and taxes, and so of course, there will be something someone can do for me. Someone I can call to get this misunderstanding resolved. I felt I had earned that. So I told Amanda, and I meant it, it's going to be okay. Sure enough, a WGA Health Fund rep told me later that day to just write a letter, explain what happened, include a check for $150, and they get this all taken care of. No problem. So I did. And 2 weeks later, I got a letter back saying they had carefully reviewed our case and the request for my family's immediate reinstatement had been denied. The uncashed check was stapled to the rejection letter, which was on the nose, but a nice touch. I started to worry and called my lawyer, Dave Feldman, who told me not to worry. Dave says that a lot. He said he'd call the president of the Writers Guild himself. We'll get this sorted out. Straight to the top, the big cheese. When you've made it in Hollywood, there is always someone you can call. It's going to be okay. But there was nothing the Guild president could do. Separation of church and state. The Guild holds no sway over the health fund. There was no exception, no backdoor, no special one-time favor for a special guy. So Dave called Andrew Bretler, a fellow lawyer who is apparently the Michael Clayton of health insurance appeals, and we began the process of appealing the decision to deny reinstatement. I didn't tell Amanda any of this. I lied every time she asked me about it, and she asked me a lot. I had to lie, though. The Sisyphean stress of trying to keep her stress level down every minute of every day while raising a 3-year-old was bad enough. Worrying about the cost of surgery and an extended hospital stay without insurance could literally endanger the baby's life. And if that sounds ridiculous and overly dramatic, trust me, it was. I knew the appeal was a long shot. Insurance companies don't get their name on football stadiums by willingly accepting complicated pregnancies. I called the WGA Health Fund every day, trying to find someone to help me figure out what we were going to do when the appeal was denied. And every day, polite strangers took turns telling me they didn't know what to do. Finally, someone leveled with me off the record. Look, it's highly unlikely you're going to win this appeal. I knew that. And missing that payment had made my family ineligible for the year. I did not know that. So my wife and son would be without health insurance until open enrollment, which was 9 months away. There was nothing anyone at the fund could do. She was truly sorry, but her hands were tied. I didn't know what to say. And I always know what to say. There's always something to say. I mean, I was long before I got up here, and I'm just talking off script right now. I think eventually I managed, there has to be someone who can help. And then she asked if I had ever heard of the Motion Picture Television Fund. I had heard of the MPTF. I knew it well, or at least I thought I did. I thought it was a safety net for people in real need, for older people, or people who've fallen on hard times, people who weren't me. I didn't see myself as someone who needed that kind of help, but then no one does. Jennifer Lewisell is one of those people who you can tell immediately is very good at what they do. She has a calm confidence honed from years navigating the labyrinth of insurance markets, helping people who've fallen through the coverage cracks. The first time I spoke to her at MPTF was the first time I exhaled since opening that rejection letter. She knew what we were up against, and she made a plan. Within 24 hours of our first phone call, my wife and son were set up on the same Blue Cross PPO that they'd been dropped from. We could stay with our doctors, have the baby at Cedars. It would be like nothing had changed. The only catch was insurance is sold monthly, so the new plan wouldn't go into effect until April 1st. We were speaking, and this is true, on March 2nd because of course we were. Amanda was in her 3rd trimester. Her cervix was shortening. I honestly didn't know if she'd make it that long. So Jennifer set about trying to find a way to backdate the effective date to March 1st without, and I quote, breaking the law or losing her license. She called her CEO. She called contacts that covered California. She called the WGA Health Fund. She threw herself into solving our problem as if it were her own. The only way I can describe it is it was like being in a dark room, and you're locked in. You think you're alone, then someone turns on a light. You're still locked in, but for the first time in weeks, I could see a way out, and I wasn't alone. Jennifer was the last person I spoke to before submitting my appeal. She, Andrew, and Dave had helped me craft what felt like a reasonable, good faith argument to reinstate. I had spoken to someone at the health fund that morning who seemed just really, really nice, and I was considering softening some of the language. I didn't want to come off argumentative. I mean, surely these people have kids, a little faith in humanity. Maybe empathy will win the day. Jennifer stopped me mid-sentence. Will, medical bankruptcies happen every day. That's what you could be facing here. Don't change a word. This could destroy your life. She had never said anything like that before. It was all positive reassurance until that call. I was on a need-to-know basis, and in that moment, I needed to know. It's a Thursday morning. We've just finished breakfast. Amanda goes to the bathroom, and I can hear Whitman playing in the other room with our assistant, Kaylee. Then I hear her call my name. I know something is wrong before I open the door and see the blood all over the floor. She's hemorrhaging. She can't feel the baby. She can't remember the last time she felt the baby. I help her into the shower. There's so much blood. I want to call 911, but she doesn't want to scare Whitman. 5 minutes later, she's dressed in all black, and we're telling him calmly as we can that Mommy and Daddy have to go to the hospital. He wants to come. He always wants to come. Kaylee convinces him to stay and play. We're winding down Laurel Canyon at rush hour. There's no movement from the baby. Amanda is trying to get her to kick. I hear myself saying, "It's going to be okay," over and over and over, an endless loop. She seems to believe me. I don't believe me. I want to believe me. But all I can think about is her OB telling us that she could die. We park illegally and move as fast as a hemorrhaging pregnant woman can into a labor and delivery room. The doctor comes in just as the nurses are taking off Amanda's pants. She sees the blood, and she does not look like a doctor who thinks this is all going to be okay. I thought we lost the baby. I really did. On some level, I was processing that grief when they wrapped a belt around Amanda's belly and the sound of our girl's heartbeat filled the room. She was gone, and then she wasn't. I'm not a good enough writer to describe what that felt like. There's blood everywhere. RVs are being started. The baby's just back from the dark side of the moon. I hold my wife's hand, and I feel every feeling. And then a nice woman wearing a nice blazer comes in, says some words at my face, and asks for my credit card. That's also on the nose, I know, but that's how it happened. She was very nice, too. Don't hate the player, hate the game. As I handed over my visa, I thought of Jennifer. This could destroy your life. And it could have, but it didn't. My daughter Collins was born via emergency C-section on April 6, 2017. Her lungs weren't fully developed. She had lost blood, needed a transfusion. The next few days featured way more conversations about a 5-pound person's heart and brain activity than you generally want. But less than 2 weeks later, we brought her home with blood to spare and a fully functioning brain, heart, and lungs. She was okay. She still is. Amanda was okay that day. Within hours of being cut open and sewn back together, she was threatening to wheel herself up to see her baby if the orderly wouldn't take her. So don't tell her no, I'm telling you. We cleared April 1st by 5 days. But by then, it didn't matter. The appeal to reinstate her health insurance had been approved. We were covered. There's one last thing that you all need to know about our little story. This is not the first time I've participated in Real Stories, Real Lives. 6 years ago, I sat where you're sitting. I was here because Courtney Valenti and Bill Gerber had asked me to volunteer. I took a tour of the campus and profiled an inspiring woman named Ella Reno. Chris Pine read her story with his dad. They were great. I've been thinking a lot about Jennifer. and the organization that made Jennifer possible for us. I've been thinking about why I volunteered, or why anyone volunteers. Maybe Abraham Lincoln had it. Maybe it's just the better angels of our nature winning out now and then. Those that have the means to indulge their angels tend to do so. It feels good to give back. Across industries and countries, well-to-do people donate their time and money to causes and foundations every day. That impulse is not unique to this business, but the MPTF is. I looked into it. It started with a coin box in Hollywood, where industry workers would deposit spare change for colleagues who fell on hard times. I've been thinking about why Charlie Chaplin, the biggest star in the world, felt compelled to put that box out for those people. We want to believe we've earned our place in this world, that hard work and individual exceptionalism alone is what got us here. Across industries and countries, people who've made it want to believe that they've earned all that they have. But on some level, we know it's not true. Working hard is part of it. It's a big part. But luck has its role to play. It's like blackjack. You can improve your odds, but you can't know what cards are coming next. We don't earn where we're born. We don't earn who our parents are. We don't earn our genes. If you're neurotic like me and every other writer in this room, you think about the words that emerge from your own subconscious. Every word I've ever written, including these, everything I've ever earned in this business, there's an element of chance in all of it. Most of you probably don't take it that far. I hope the writers don't. But all of you know what I'm talking about. You can all probably point to 100 things out of your control that went right or wrong. Wins and losses, broken hearts, betrayals, all of it got you here, to this room, on this night, with the means and time to indulge the better angels of your nature. I think the MPTF is unique to this business because this business uniquely puts us in touch with luck. 6 years ago, I volunteered because I've been lucky, because Courtney and Bill are friends who took a chance on me once, because it felt good to give back. I sat where you're sitting, content with the knowledge that I had woven a tiny piece into a safety net that I never imagined I would need. But then no one does. We're all fine until we're not. That's it. That's the end of the story. Jennifer? Yeah, everybody. For being there for us in our time of need, and for so many, all the voicemails you have to return for open enrollment, for being the light in the dark, thank you.